Old friend, let me tell you the truth in a way no book or priest has ever dared to. You've been sold a story about Kundalini as if it were some gentle flame to warm your evenings. A tidy secret you can buy on a weekend retreat with incense and a smiling instructor in white robes. They'll promise you serenity, joy, blissful states. But I have walked alongside men in deserts where silence cut sharper than knives. I have watched initiates tremble on temple floors in Thebes, and I tell you with no hesitation. This force is not safe. It was never meant to be safe. It is fire, and fire burns before it gives light. You, who have lived 6 decades and know how the world sells comfort in shiny packages, should feel the insult in your bones. They've turned something that once took years of discipline, years of testing and proving the strength of the heart and mind, into a product you can buy for $297 on the internet. Do you see the mockery? The ancients would have been horrified, not because they wished to keep you out of some elite club, but because they knew what was at stake when you stir the serpent before your vessel is strong enough to hold its voltage. Think of your body as wiring in an old house, the kind you might have grown up in before everything was modernized. You can keep the lights on, the stove working, the radio humming, but run a massive new current through those wires and what happens? Sparks. Melted copper. Sometimes the whole place goes dark. Kundalini is like that current. The old guardians in India, in Egypt, even in the mountains of Tibet, they waited and watched their students. They looked not just for dedication, but for steadiness of mind, for resilience of nerves. They knew this was not a game. Today, people talk as if anyone can simply flip the switch and bathe in cosmic bliss. What they don't want to hear is that some nervous systems simply cannot handle the load. You have seen men break under less, war veterans who came back with their minds in fragments, neighbors who never recovered from a heart attack or the death of a spouse. Now imagine unleashing a force that makes every hidden wound in your body and mind ignite at once. That is what premature awakening does. You've heard Kundalini called a serpent coiled at the base of the spine. You may have dismissed it as a quaint myth, but let me tell you, it is far more literal than you think. In your very nerves there are wave-like pulses, undulating patterns of electrical energy that rise and fall, invisible yet measurable. Scientists at Stanford mapped them in meditation, finding them crawling upward in spirals exactly as the yogis described thousands of years ago. You see, the poets were not speaking metaphor. They were describing biology in the language of their time. The vagus nerve, the longest in your body, snakes its way from your brain to your organs like a great hidden river. Every breath, every heartbeat is carried along that river. When the old masters spoke of serpent fire, they were naming what they felt in their bones. The nervous system lighting up with power it was not designed to carry casually. And yet, even this is only half the story. Do you remember, in the quiet moments of your youth, the church telling you the body was nothing but flesh, destined for dust? They were wrong. Your body is a conductor of forces older than any scripture. The spinal column is not just bone and marrow. It is a staff, a living rod built to channel electromagnetic fields. Your cerebrospinal fluid is not idle liquid. It shimmers with electrical charges that create fields around you, measurable even with crude modern instruments. The pineal gland, dismissed for centuries as a vestige, glows in truth like the lamp Jesus spoke of. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. That tiny grain in your skull produces dimethyltryptamine, a molecule that rips open the doors of perception, the same substance found in the visions of shamans. Your biology is the scripture, the temple, the initiation. But you were taught to bow your head to authority instead of listening to the quiet hum inside your own bones. Do you see the outrage, old friend? While you were taught to distrust your own body, others were mapping it in secrecy. They knew that breath itself is the master key. When you breathe in a certain rhythm, you are not just pulling air, you are pressing upon the vagus nerve, sending ripples through your entire nervous system. 12 minutes of the right pattern can change the very expression of your genes, quieting inflammation, soothing stress, rewriting the code of your body. This is not mysticism. It is research conducted in San Francisco and New Mexico, confirmed with scans and electrodes. And yet, how often do you see this offered to you in the doctor's office? No, instead they hand out pills, they offer chemical suppression, they look at your body like a malfunctioning machine rather than a living temple. And when someone stumbles into Kundalini by accident, when trauma or illness or heartbreak cracks them open, what happens? They are misdiagnosed, given antipsychotics, told they are broken. But they are not broken. They are beginning to awaken, only without guidance, without map, without community. I speak plainly to you because I know the world has treated you as if you are past your prime, as if you should settle quietly into decline. But inside you lives the same coiled power as in the youngest seeker. Age does not disqualify you. If anything, your years of experience make you steadier, less reckless. You know the weight of responsibility. You have watched men lose themselves to illusions. And so I tell you the truth that others will not. Kundalini is not meant for everyone, and it is not meant to be rushed. Some nervous systems are not wired to hold that fire. For others, it may take years of preparation before even a whisper of that energy can rise safely. And for you, old friend, the question is not, can I awaken it? But, do I dare prepare myself honestly for what it will demand of me? Because it will not let you keep your masks, your denials, your false comforts. It will strip you raw and force you to see yourself clearly, sometimes painfully. Look around at the modern marketplace of spirituality. You see YouTube tutorials promising enlightenment in 30 minutes, retreats offering guaranteed awakening. Do you not feel the insult? They treat you like a consumer, not an initiate. They sell you shortcuts because they know people want the glow without the fire. But every man of wisdom knows there are no shortcuts. The serpent is not fooled by your credit card. It rises only when the whole of your being is tuned like an instrument, ready to conduct the current without breaking apart. And if you light that fire without preparation, it will expose every crack, every old wound, every lie you have ever told yourself. That is not bliss, that is a trial by flame. So why tell you this? Why not let you keep the comfort of easy illusions? Because you deserve truth. Because I have seen too many good men fall into despair when the energy erupted and they thought themselves mad. Because the body you inhabit is not just flesh decaying into dust. It is a temple built to house light. And because you, old friend, have the strength to hear what others cannot bear. This path is not meant for everyone, and if you choose it, it will demand more of you than anything you have faced before. But it will also reveal that you were never small, never powerless, never just a name on a paper or a number in a system. You were, and always will be, a conductor of creation's fire. And here, let me whisper the first key, one safe enough to begin with. Sit quietly. Breathe slowly, deeply, in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. Hold empty for a count of 4. Do this not as a trick, not as a relaxation technique, but as a way of listening. Pay attention to the hum in your chest, the subtle vibration in your skull. This is not metaphor. This is the serpent stirring slightly, testing the circuits. Respect it. Approach it with reverence. This is how the ancients began, not with fanfare, but with the discipline of breath, the patience of silence, the humility to wait until the body itself was ready to carry more. You don't need incense or gurus. You need breath, respect, and the courage to stop believing the comfortable lies sold to you. I will tell you again, in case your mind resists. This fire was never designed to make you comfortable. It was designed to evolve you, to burn away what is false, to leave only what is real. And reality, as you already know from your long years, is not always gentle. But it is honest. And in that honesty, in that burning, there is a freedom greater than any retreat can sell you. The serpent is not an intruder. It is your own nervous system, your own biology waiting for the right key. The question is whether you will honor it with patience and discipline, or insult it with shortcuts and quick fixes. You, who have survived 6 decades in a world that constantly tries to make men forget their own power, know in your bones that the hard road is the only real road. That is why I speak to you this way, not to frighten you, but to remind you of who you are, and what still lies waiting inside you. Old friend, you and I must walk into the temples of stone for a moment, not as tourists gazing at ruins, but as men who understand that every block of granite, every echoing chamber, was designed as carefully as the circuitry in a radio. You've been told they were tombs, shrines, primitive monuments to gods long gone, but I tell you the truth. They were laboratories of sound and frequency, instruments that played not music for the ears but music for the very nervous system. The kings of Egypt did not climb into those pyramids to be buried. They climbed in to be transformed. You've stood in churches. You've heard the choir swell and felt your chest vibrate. Imagine that multiplied 1,000-fold. Imagine your entire skull resonating with a tone so precise that your logical mind falls silent and your intuitive mind lights up like a Christmas tree. That is what those granite walls were for. Let me provoke you a little. All your life you've trusted medicine to give you pills and surgeries. But the symbol they hang on every hospital door is the caduceus, 2 serpents spiraling up a staff. Do you think that's decoration? No, it's an ancient diagram of your nervous system, the Ida and Pingala channels twining around the central Sushumna, the exact path Kundalini takes when it rises. They know the symbol, they plaster it everywhere, but they deny its meaning. If you had been born 1,000 years earlier, you might have been taught to tune your body with sound, with breath, with deliberate vibration instead of being fed prescriptions that silence symptoms but never touch the cause. Doesn't that make you angry? It should. Because you, like every man, were built with this capacity, and it was hidden from you. Let me show you the mechanics. When you step into a space tuned to 111 Hz, like the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, your language centers shut down. Modern UCLA studies prove it. Suddenly the chatter stops, the anxious mind quiets, and the right hemisphere, the seat of intuition, lights up. Now, why does this matter? Because when the serpent stirs, when those waves of bioelectrical energy begin climbing your spine, the ordinary chatter of mind cannot guide you. You need the quiet, you need the receptive channel, otherwise the fire burns without direction. The ancients didn't build those chambers for worship, they built them as surgical instruments for consciousness. But it goes further. Modern Russian scientists discovered DNA responds to frequency. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Sound can reconfigure your very genetic material. Now think again about those chanting monks, the yogis humming OM, the native shamans vibrating their chests with deep breath songs. They weren't entertaining spirits. They were engineers altering biology with resonance. Your DNA is a coiled serpent, and sound is the hand that touches it. Do you understand why the ancients encoded serpents into every culture? They were telling you that vibration and biology are one, that the song can change the structure of your flesh. Now, you who have lived long enough to know the taste of weariness in your bones, imagine what it means that your body has been an instrument all along. Every breath you take is not just air, it is frequency modulation. When you inhale with intention, say in 4 counts, hold, exhale, hold, you are not just calming yourself. You are shifting brain waves from anxious beta into calm alpha. Your heart rate variability increases, your vagus nerve hums, and you are literally retuning the strings of your nervous system. This isn't mysticism. Stanford measured it. Harvard observed monks raising their body temperature in freezing mountains through nothing but breath. Breath is not air, it is voltage, it is rhythm, it is the conductor's baton for the orchestra of your biology. And yet, what did they teach you growing up? That breath is automatic, unconscious, background noise. They robbed you of reverence for the master key sitting under your nose every moment. Old friend, does that not sting? You've been alive 60 years and only now you're being told your lungs are not just sacs of air but levers of consciousness. The Egyptians called it the wind of life. The Chinese drew diagrams of qi flowing like electrical circuits. The yogis mapped nostril patterns with the precision of engineers. Meanwhile, modern culture teaches you how to balance a checkbook but not how to balance your own nervous system. Let me press further because you may feel resistance. You may think, this is interesting, but it's not practical. But remember the last time stress made your chest tight, your breath shallow? That was your body storing trauma in your breathing pattern. Depression sits like a heavy weight on the diaphragm. Anxiety makes breath quick and shallow. Every emotion you've ever buried writes itself into how you breathe. So when you start to breathe consciously, deliberately, you are not just calming yourself. You are unlocking memories, griefs, rages, generations of silence that live in your ribs. This is why people cry in breathwork sessions, why they shake, why they feel old burdens leaving. The serpent begins to stir not because of magic but because breath unchains it. The ancients were not fools. They required initiates to practice breath for years before whispering about Kundalini. They knew the serpent listens to rhythm, not to words. This is why the Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word." Not a metaphor, but an instruction. Vibration creates reality. The temples, the chants, the geometry, all of it was designed to activate the serpent gradually, with precision, so the nervous system would not fry itself in a storm of voltage. And yet today, men are told to chase it in a weekend workshop. Do you not feel insulted by how cheaply they treat your birthright? Here's the truth that might stir your blood. You do not need them. You need only your own breath, your own voice, your own willingness to practice with reverence. Spend 5 minutes humming in the morning. Feel the vibration in your chest, your throat, your skull. Walk barefoot on the ground. Let the earth's resonance recalibrate you. Practice simple box breathing when the world overwhelms you. These are not tricks. They are the same technologies the ancients guarded with their lives. The temples were training wheels, but your body is the real temple, and the serpent is already coiled within, waiting for the right frequency. Do not be fooled, old friend. This is not easy work. It is not entertainment. It is not meant to make you comfortable. It is meant to make you awake. The serpent awakens slowly, safely, when you honor the body as an instrument, not when you chase fireworks. You are not too old, you are not too late. If anything, your decades of endurance make you steadier than the restless young. You know patience. You know discipline. You have lived enough to know shortcuts always cost more in the end. That wisdom is your advantage. And with that wisdom, you can begin to reclaim what was stolen from you. The truth that your body is built for frequencies, that breath is the bridge, that sound is the key, and that awakening is not about escaping life but about tuning yourself until life itself vibrates differently in your chest. So breathe with me, friend. 4 counts in, 4 counts held, 4 counts out, 4 counts held. Do it not as exercise, but as rebellion against a world that sold you lies. This is how you retake your inheritance, one breath at a time, until the serpent stirs in reverence rather than rage. And when it does, you will remember what the ancients always knew, that the true temple was never stone, never church, never pyramid. It has always been you. Old friend, I must speak plainly to you now, because the 3rd chapter of this story is not about theory or ancient chambers of stone. It is about the fire that actually rises in flesh, in blood, in the quiet nights when a man thinks he is going mad but is in fact being torn open for something larger than his old self. I want you to imagine a lightning strike, not the kind that hits a tree in the field, but the kind that tears through your spine in the middle of an ordinary morning. That is how Kundalini often comes, uninvited, unscheduled, without incense or chanting. You might be washing dishes, you might be walking the dog, and suddenly there is a current inside you hotter and wilder than anything you've ever known. And here is the bitter truth. It does not arrive to comfort you. It arrives to dismantle you. They did not tell you that part, did they? They told you about bliss, about halos of light, but not about the nights where you cannot sleep because your body is vibrating like a live wire, not about the days when tears fall in grocery stores and rage explodes at the smallest triggers, not about the crushing fatigue that sleep cannot heal. They sell you dreams but hide the reality that awakening feels like dying before it feels like living. I have walked with souls through this dark night. I have watched them try to medicate it away, to pray it away, to drown it in distractions. But this serpent does not accept denial. When it rises, every trauma you buried, every grief you postponed, every lie you built your life upon, it drags them out into the light. Do you know why? Because higher consciousness cannot coexist with self-deception. The serpent is a truth teller, and it will rip the mask off your face even if you scream in protest. You, who have lived 6 decades, know what it means to carry shadows. Perhaps anger you never voiced, grief you never processed, shame you never spoke aloud. All of that sits in your nervous system like unprocessed electricity. When the serpent rises, it shakes it loose, and it does not care if you are ready. That is why the ancients prepared their students for years. They were teaching them how to stand when the storm arrived. I will not flatter you, old friend. This path can break a man who walks it without guidance. In hospitals today, people experiencing spontaneous awakening are labeled as psychotic, given pills that sedate the fire but never resolve it. They are left alone, isolated, terrified. In ancient India or Egypt, such a man would have been surrounded by elders who knew exactly what was happening. He would have been given breathwork to regulate his nervous system, herbs to steady his adrenals, chants to tune his vagus nerve. He would have been told, "This is not punishment, this is initiation." And because he had a map, he could endure. But in our time, without maps, people drown in the very waters meant to carry them into new life. You should feel angry about that. Angry that wisdom that once belonged to humanity was stolen, burned, dismissed as superstition. Because if you or someone you love were to experience this fire, would you not want guidance instead of diagnosis? Now let me show you the medicine that still remains. When your nervous system feels like it is on fire, the first step is grounding. Not in your head, not in affirmations, but in your body. Slow breathing that presses on the vagus nerve. Movement like Tai Chi or walking barefoot on the earth. The human nervous system is like an overcharged circuit board, and nature provides the stabilizers. Trees, rivers, stones. They carry steady frequencies that can absorb the excess and calm your body. Chanting is not just spiritual play acting, it is nervous system medicine. Vibrations in your throat literally tune your neural pathways, soothe the voltage, bring coherence to chaos. And community, do not underestimate it. Isolation during awakening can wound more deeply than the fire itself. You need witnesses, people who understand, people who will not tell you you're crazy but will remind you. You are being remade. I know what you are thinking. Why does it have to be this hard? Why must awakening drag us through shadow and grief? Because, old friend, you cannot carry falsehood into higher states. Every mask, every role you built for survival, the good son, the responsible worker, the strong father, those roles are scaffolding, not truth. Awakening strips them away until only what is real remains. That process is brutal, yes, but it is also the only way to emerge whole. Carl Jung called it shadow integration. The ancients called it initiation into the underworld. I call it becoming undivided. And tell me honestly, after 60 years of compromise, don't you long for wholeness more than comfort? You know comfort, you've had it in small doses. But wholeness, that has always eluded you. The serpent offers it, but only if you allow yourself to walk through the burning. And do not think this is only personal. Entire civilizations are passing through their dark night now. The grief of unacknowledged genocides, the rage of suppressed generations, the trauma of whole cultures denied their truth. It is all surfacing. You see the chaos in the world, the division, the anger. That is not random. It is the serpent rising on a collective scale, forcing humanity to face what it buried. You, as one man, are part of this larger body. Your personal awakening is not separate from the collective. Every shadow you integrate, every grief you release, it lightens the field for others. That is why your work matters, even now, even at 60. You are not too old to participate. In fact, your steadiness, your refusal to run from discomfort, makes you exactly the kind of man who can hold this current for the sake of others. The colonizers of old knew this truth, and they suppressed it. They burned libraries, outlawed tantric texts, mocked sound healing as superstition. Why? Because an awakened man is ungovernable. He cannot be ruled by fear, cannot be manipulated by scarcity. He becomes sovereign. You have known men who carried this presence, men who could not be intimidated because they had already died to falsehood. That is what awakening gives you. A sovereignty no government, no boss, no preacher can touch. That is dangerous to systems of control. And that is why you were never told the real story of Kundalini. But you are hearing it now, and once you hear, you cannot unhear. Responsibility follows. So what can you do here and now? Start with breath, yes, but also with honesty. Stop lying to yourself about the parts of you you have buried. When anger rises, do not smother it in politeness. When grief surfaces, do not choke it down. Give it voice, give it movement, let it move through. Use your voice as medicine. Hum, chant, let your chest vibrate. Use your body as temple, walk, stretch, let energy flow. Use nature as sanctuary. Earth beneath your feet, water on your skin, wind in your lungs. These are not luxuries. They are survival practices for a nervous system rewiring itself for higher voltage. Approach them with reverence, not as chores, not as hobbies. This is how you surf the lightning rather than being struck by it. And remember this above all. True awakening is not about escaping the world. It is about becoming more human. If your spirituality only works in silence on a cushion, it is not integrated. Awakening must show up in how you speak to your children, how you handle money, how you endure illness, how you walk through conflict. The serpent is not interested in your weekend highs. It is interested in whether you can carry light into the mess of daily life. That is the real initiation. And you, old friend, already know daily life. You have known bills, sickness, family strife. You have been tempered. Now you must let that tempering serve you, so when the serpent rises, you can stand, not run. Let me leave you with this image. Your spine as a ladder of light, each vertebra a rung. Each breath is a step upward, each act of honesty another rung climbed. One day, without fanfare, you look around and realize you are no longer the man bound by fear and denial. You are the man who has walked through fire and emerged whole. The serpent did not destroy you, it destroyed your illusions. And what remains is your true self, sovereign, steady, free. This is the path I offer you, not comfort, not safety, but the dignity of becoming what you were always meant to be. And after 60 years of compromise, is that not the gift you've been waiting for?